ones, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you'll never miss a video with the great Papyrus. Enjoy.
10 minutes later. Sometimes I forget that I'm a sentry. I'm supposed to watch this door in case a human comes through it. Sitting here and waiting, it's boring. I'd rather create jewels to pass the time. Once, while I was practicing knock-knock jokes, I heard a woman's voice from the other side of the door. I told a joke, and she started laughing, like she hadn't for a long time. I kept visiting her every day, talking and telling jokes. It's become a routine. But because of my nightmares, I haven't been visiting her as often. Maybe she can help with them. I remember she told me the hallway to the door was long. I'll wait for 5 minutes and try knocking once a minute. 8 minutes later. 3, 2, 1. Well, she's not responding. Maybe she's busy or not there. I'll try again later.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Who?
Who's who?
Oh, greetings, Mr. Owl. How are you tonight?
Wow! Even the pun book couldn't be so creative.
Why, thank you. I'm sorry for not responding sooner. I was doing my laundry when I heard you knocking. Anyway, it's been a while since we last spoke. I was wondering if everything was okay. The last time we spoke, you seemed very tired. Are you feeling better today?
You don't have to worry about me. I'm just having a few nightmares. My brother told me to take a break for a few days. That's why I haven't had the chance to visit you.
I see. It's all right to take care of yourself. Hearing your voice again reassures me. I thought you were busy working. Being a sentry, a jeweler, and an assistant of the royal scientist is a lot. Tell me, if you had to choose only one of your 3 jobs, which would make you the happiest?
Well, to be honest, being royal scientist isn't one I'd pick. I'm only doing it because my dad needs help. But since me and Papyrus have other jobs, I've heard rumors that Gaster is looking for someone to replace him as royal scientist after he leaves his job. Someday in the future. That's something I found quite odd. Gaster isn't the kind of skeleton to give up his title so easily.
It is indeed odd. Speaking of the future, isn't it your birthday tomorrow?
You have a good memory, lady. Yes, tomorrow is my birthday. Time really flies fast.
It does. I know what I'm about to tell you sounds silly, but do you know the story from the time before the war between humans and monsters? Back when the 2 races lived in peace.
Yes. I think Dad once told me about 2 goddesses who visited the human and monster village. One stayed there, while the other one traveled.
Yes, let me tell you a tale about 2 sisters and mothers. Each of them had a different role, but they shared the same goal, to preserve life and nature. What I'm about to tell you is something you'll never find in the library. A long time ago, there were 2 sisters who were also mothers, who sometimes visited the village of humans and monsters. The older sister, Eve, was the mother of all, while her younger sister, Gaia, was mother of nature. Eve had the power to create life and give birth to new beings, while Gaia could create environments like forest and jungle. As an example, she could also summon storms, rain, and snow. They may have had different roles, but they share the same goal, to preserve life and nature. The sisters came to the village because they had heard the people pray for their arrival. The villagers explained to the sister how they were on the brink of starvation because it had not rained for months. Almost all the vegetation in the gardens were withered, and not many animals had survived. They were desperate for help. Eve allowed her sister Gaia to summon rain clouds around the village. Dark clouds covered the blue sky, and rain finally started to fall. The villagers rejoiced over the return of rain. The rivers, vegetation, and animals all returned after months of drought and starvation. Eve was proud of her sister. She was finally ready to take care of the planet on her own and without supervision. But later, while humans and monsters celebrated the end of the drought, Eve and Gaia had a discussion alone. Gaia didn't want to travel without her sister, but Eve knew Gaia was capable of taking care of both herself and the planet. The older sister needed to help the people. That was what she was born for. Eve had sacrificed too much caring for her younger sister. She had had enough of Gaia's capricious and immature behavior. She slapped Gaia to try to snap her out of her nonsense. The discussion ended there, quickly and silently. Before Gaia left, she had one last thing to say to Eve. You chose them over me. I hate you. I don't want to see you ever again. Farewell. Gaia left the village and vanished without a trace. Eve couldn't believe that her sister was so dependent on her and jealous of the people. Eve decided to stay with the humans and monsters of the village in order to help them. Years later, Eve still thought of her sister every day. Despite what Gaia had said, she was still her sister, and Eve missed her. It wasn't fair to leave things that way. One day, she told the kings of humans and monsters that she was going to leave the village and find her sister. The king of humans was displeased when he heard of her departure. He begged her to stay longer, but Eve had already made up her mind. The king of monsters understood her situation, however. He slowly nodded his head upon hearing her worries, and told her it was going to be okay. After telling her people goodbye, Eve left the village. After she left, a dark cloud covered the sky above the village. An ominous feeling hung over the people, as though something terrible would happen soon. 1 week after Eve's departure, humans declared war on the monsters. The Monster King demanded an explanation for this unnecessary war. The Human King refused to explain. He called the monsters inferior and less evolved, and claimed only he had the right to be superior to all. The Human King said nothing of his people. This was all for himself. Hours later, the humans were victorious, or rather, the Human King was victorious. The ruthless king gave the Monster King a choice: to become the king's slave, or to have himself and his kind sealed into the mountain. The Monster King responded quickly. He'd rather have himself and his kind sealed into the mountain than become a slave. The Evil King granted his wish, sealing all of monsterkind into the mountain with a magic barrier. The King of Monsters looked upon the surface one last time as the humans despaired and felt powerless to help. He did not blame the humans, but instead felt sorry for them. If only they had the courage to stand up against the Human King and rebel, this would have never happened. But the despicable king was too powerful for even a human to stand against. He was a truly bloodthirsty monster who merely pretended to be human. Everyone knew now that they should not have healed him when he was ill, and instead should have let him die. Even before he fell ill, he had always threatened his subjects and called them filth. Everyone thought he might someday change, but he never did. 3 months later, the king and queen of the monsters received a mysterious, anonymous letter from the other side of the barrier. It read, "Dear Monsterkind, the king of humans, Trevor, is now dead. He was killed by the mother of all herself, Eve. The humans are at last free from the reigns of this despicable king, but I regret to inform you that he had already murdered 5 of the wizards who created the barrier. I'm afraid your freedom won't come anytime soon. However, according to a book of spells, inanimate objects and food can cross the barrier. This, at least, we can do to help your kind survive. We understand if you can't forgive us. Our people now have a new queen, but it will take time to rebuild our village. We're now looking for a way to break the barrier and give monsterkind the justice they deserve. It may take weeks, months, or even years, but please, monsterkind, stay patient, stay determined, and don't lose sight of what's important. Hold on to your lives, your hopes, your dreams. We promise that one day you will all be free. A human friend who misses you a lot.